sit down. It's not?
Okay.
There's a reason for that.
So I like that. I like that inside, outside.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you've got the inside scoop, but you're kind of looking in from the outside. I guess you're kind of our Pleasant deep throat equivalent.
That's right.
You spent a lot of years at the Chicago Tribune too, didn't you?
I was there 13 years, yes.
Okay, yeah, so there was a lot going on there that you were a part of as well, huh?
And it's a good town. It's a great town for news.
Yeah. Well, Pleasanton seems to be
It's even better today, I think, than I was there. So.
Pleasanton seems to be a pretty good town for news these days too. So there were a couple of things that we really wanted to focus on, and I guess one of them was boom. Done. One of them was done. So what's done? What is that going to tell us?
You know, I used to write speeches for the chairman of Standard Oil, which is now BP, and Westinghouse Electric, which is now CBS.
Okay.
And I learned that, and there are other companies I work for too that are no longer in business, but
Is there a trend here?
Don't tell Gina that. One of the things I learned in speech writing is that you limit your speech to 3 subjects, 3 topics.
Okay.
You start out saying, here's what I'm going to talk about, and you've got that list.
I've got that list.
And you talk about them, and then you leave.
And that's what's going to happen today? Okay, so done, boom, and 10,000.
That's right. We'll start with done.
All right, I feel like we're doing the Great Karnak here for a second, you know? It's like, okay, done.
And I'm glad you asked. The done is the fact that Pleasanton is finally home free on the court orders that it's had on housing. In 1996, the voters, by a large margin, I think 85%, went to the polls and voted for a housing cap in this town. 29,000 units max. That's houses and apartments. It was not a good idea. And it generated some interest among people like Jerry Brown, the Urban Housing Coalition forces in Oakland, and the courts. And there was a suit filed against the housing cap, arguing basically that here's a city that was booming with businesses and attracting more and more, and we still are, but not providing the housing for the workforce. And that it translated sometimes into low income, but that really wasn't the case at all. It was the secretaries and the others who worked in Hacienda, newspaper reporters, and others who have trouble affording buying million-dollar homes.
Public service employees, people like that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Realtors. Pleasanton lost that suit in Superior Court, appealed, won on appeal, went back to the lower court, lost again. It became clear that one of 2 things was going to happen. Either the city would step forward and start to provide space for the homes, wouldn't have to build them, would have to provide land, or the court and Jerry Brown would do it for us. They took the wise course, and the council before this one rezoned 73 acres of land in Pleasanton for affordable, what they call affordable housing, but high-density housing. And that has gone forward with task forces. It's now been done. Last Tuesday, the council voted to approve the last of the projects that will be on these parcels over by Safeway, the new Safeway, where Gateway Commons, the Commons at Gateway will be built, and that is a massive development, and I'll get into that in a minute. But anyhow, what Pleasanton did satisfied the court. We have a housing element, we're home free, no one's breathing down our necks anymore. There was also the thought at the time, the next question?
Boom.
Boom. There was also a thought at the time that it's going to be years before any of these acres are filled up. That didn't happen. VRE came in, which is a national affordable housing developer, came in, acquired land in Hacienda, and I need my crib sheet now. And VRE is going to build 3- and 4-story apartment buildings with 506 units on 16 acres in Hacienda. That's approved. the residences at California Center. That's been approved. That's 305 apartments, and that's an 8.4 acre site. That's along Las Positas, with a nice green area that you see going into what's called now the California Center. That's going to go away. Those will be apartments and a retail shop at the corner there across from the restaurant. What's the restaurant? Yeah, okay. So that's been approved. The council also has now approved St. Anton Hacienda project. It's a mouthful, but we'll have 168 residential apartments on West Las Positas at Stoneridge Drive, 5.6 acre site, and that will be, that's probably the most glamorous of the units because it will include a lot of apartments for handicapped, wheelchair people, as well as market rate apartments. There's another one that called ES Ring and Oftimar. I don't know if you've been up Burnell Avenue from First Street. You'll notice on the right there's a ranch there with some llamas and funny looking horses. That's owned by Oftimar, longtime property owner in Pleasanton. He also owned the site across from McDonald's at the other end of Burnell at Stanley, next to the Jewish synagogue. And that's now been approved for an ES Ring development with 345 upscale apartments. There won't be any affordables in that one. These will all be apartments starting well over $2,000, probably into the $3,000 range across from McDonald's. And there's, I don't have the number of buildings there, but it's many. And then I mentioned the Gateway Center over here by the new Safeway. That's in between Burnell Community Park. There's open space there across from the apartments that were built some years ago. That will be filled up now between Valley and 680 and Safeway on the north and Burnell Community Park on the south with, I get this, there'll be 9 3- and 4-story buildings, 210 multifamily units, and then another 97 single-family homes. I showed a sketch Tuesday night of these homes. They look like the modern-day version of the brownstones in Boston and New York. They're 3 stories tall. Some go up to 47 feet in height. You can get an elevator if you want to pay for it. So this will be an interesting complex. It's all centered on a pool, a park, soccer fields. Quite a complex, really.
Yeah.
And then the fact is that that's 49 acres that have been committed now for high-density housing out of the 73. Going forward, there'll be another housing element required in 2014 with additional homes that will have to be built in Pleasanton, but the land has already been zoned. So according to the city manager, we're home free now for about another 15, 20 years without having to rezone lands for multifamily housing.
Okay, this takes care of all that was
That's
ordered
right.
by the courts and by the state.
And then I have another subject.
The other subject was 10,000.
10,000. That's how many more people will be coming to town. It could be over that. A lot of these apartments are 2- and 3-bedroom apartments, especially the ones across from McDonald's. They will probably have more than 2 people in each of them. The school district is concerned because it's likely that the more than 2 people will be children, and there are no plans to build another school in this town, and no money for it. So that's the next big concern that is really not a city council problem, except that we're in the same tax district and someone's going to have to come up with the money.
Yeah, and it's a contiguous district between the city and the schools, so, I mean, there's a lot of cooperation, but it's up to the school district to determine that.
Now, these are nationally designed buildings, from what I've seen. We like to call it the Pleasanton look, whatever that is, but I think it means it's not the Dublin look.
Okay. I mean, if they're in Pleasanton, they're bound to be fabulous, so that might just be what it is.
So
a nice fabulous look.
No permits have been issued, although the one on Las Positas has design work being done, and it will probably get a permit later this year. It could start construction next year. Scott Troby, who's building the one near Safeway, said he has his plans will be submitted later this year, but he doesn't expect to start construction until 2015. That's probably when most of these projects will get started. But you'll see a building boom in Pleasanton like we haven't had since the 1970s and 80s.
Yeah, so between 2014 and 2016, all these should be completed, and we'll start having people moving into the area.
That's right.
So what about the job situation in Pleasanton? We got jobs for these people? Do they already work here? I mean, it seems like we've got some good employers. What's the status on that?
Well, the employment keeps growing, and Pamela Ott, the Economic Development Director, just issued a report talking about jobs booming in Pleasanton, growing faster than they have in the past, and faster than they are in the other cities, including Dublin, which seems to be, booming itself.
That was that economic vitality report that you wrote about. Okay, yeah, I mean, it seemed to be that there was a lot of companies moving into the Pleasanton area.
We have Clorox that moved in. They're going to have 1,100 people here at their new campus when everything's moved out of Oakland. We have Safeway adding another building or two. We have Oracle that has a spot for another high-rise building. So yes, I think you'll see a lot more job opportunities among the corporations.
Excellent, excellent. So
we're looking for freelancers too, by the way.
Oh, are you? Is this a public service announcement?
And bloggers, right? Bloggers.
Okay, bloggers, any bloggers out here, any freelance writers, Jeb's looking for you.
Well, I think it's good news for realtors because these 10,000 that will be moving in are going to be moving into rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And having been in a rental myself and knowing many who started out that way, I think you always start looking for housing after a while.
Sure, no, absolutely. And with the employment opportunities, then there's increased income, and things start happening. When you start having a job, you don't get too busy. So what about the Stoneridge extension? Is that all done? We got anything else going on there, or is that complete?
It's all paved, and one of the highlights of the Stoneridge extension going from Santa Rita out to El Chao is that we will be adding 4 or 5 more traffic lights. And that's always good in Pleasanton because we like traffic lights.
I saw one of those just the other night. I was sitting there for about 5 minutes, but I realized it wasn't working yet. Yeah.
And along with that Stoneridge Creek, which is the retirement community, people have started moving in there, and they will dedicate, officially open that complex at the same time that we dedicate an open Stoneridge extension, which is supposed to be at the end of that's Nelson speaking. We don't know. We think it'll be in October, but they've been behind schedule on that project. The bridge is finished, and they're doing the decorative stuff. One of the things about Stoneridge will be neat is that from Santa Rita out to El Chao, where we'll connect with Jack London Boulevard, is going to be rubberized pavement. We don't have a street like that in Pleasanton. Super quiet.
Oh, really?
Both for the people who live near it and the people who are driving on it.
Okay, all right. And in the case of an earthquake, it just kind of goes up and down like
well,
this.
We build streets here.
Okay. So we got to have a vintage car procession to open it up like they did on the Bay Bridge.
I don't know.
We got to hold up traffic for.
Gary Schweigerle's here, and he'd probably be one of the first ones on it.
Okay. We can probably sell tickets for that. Can't
That's
we?
right.
We could do something along those lines.
Well, it's long overdue. We started talking about a route from Foothill and 680 to Livermore in 1989. So it's been a while to get this road built. So it's long overdue. People from Livermore, if they have an emergency and need to get to Valley Care quickly, now they have to use Stanley and come wrap around or use 580 in rush hour.
Which doesn't work.
This will give them immediate access. It'll give us an access to the outlets, which is owned by Stoneridge Mall, so same profit center. And there will also be 2 new dealerships moving into Staples Ranch at El Chorro and Violini.
Okay, so the long-awaited auto row is going to be moving up there. Okay, all right. So you wrote something recently about the Bay Bridge, right? The Bay Bridge opening and things like that. What were your thoughts on the bridge? And who's gone across the bridge, the new bridge so far? Isn't it beautiful?
Excellent.
It is really, really nice. I mean, if you're just like sitting around and want to take a joyride, it's, you know, it's a cheap $5, you know, go across the bridge, you know. But it is really, really beautiful. So they, through everything, they actually did a pretty good job on it.
Well, you know, not only is it open and it's beautiful, I'm going to go on it this weekend, I haven't been there yet, but there's a concern now and a new report out that by 2040, it will be at capacity. There won't be any way, there'll be gridlock from Sonoma County and VREN County and Alameda County to San Francisco. So that's something that maybe we can plan for. I don't know if there are any $1 billion left because we've got to build a high-speed rail first.
Right, right. And I've always got to pay the bonus for getting it done on time. Yeah. So, anybody have any questions for Jeb about things that are happening in Pleasanton? Any questions? Bless you. Yeah. Bless you. All right. Any questions? Because we talked about the housing, we talked about Stoneridge, the economic vitality report. Things seem to be, you know, getting back to better than normal.
Yeah, and I think we have a very active council that we've elected, and you see them around town a lot, so they're very accessible. What's interesting is that all of this housing development, although there were concerns early on, the last few meetings when they've approved these multi-million-dollar high-density projects, there have been 1 or 2 speakers.
Okay.
So,
All right. So
it's a quiet time.
Quiet time, and it seems like they did it in a way that spread it out over the city in areas that it won't affect the, you know, kind of the environment of the city, kind of just the feel of the city.
And that was the intent, and they did a good job doing that thing.
Yeah.
We have one question.
Oh, question.
Yeah, Jeb, with 10,000 or more people moving in, what's that going to mean to traffic on the surface streets and parking and congestion in Pleasanton?
Well, they had with each of these projects moving forward, they did do a traffic analysis. And since many of them are in the Hacienda Business Park, those roads are very underutilized, believe it or not. It was built with massive, large, wide streets, much like you see in Livermore on 2nd and 3rd and 4th, you know, huge streets that maybe you don't need them that wide, but Hacienda, they'll need them now. There was also parking in each of these complexes, more parking than is required by the city, and the traffic engineer says that none of these will impact the traffic in Pleasanton adversely. I think the big concern is probably going to be at Stanley and where Burnell and Valley meet. That's always a mess at night, as you know, coming through. But with the Stoneridge opening, maybe there won't be as many left turners there trying to get home to Livermore.
All right. Tim, you got a question?
Well, I was going to add to that. Can everybody hear me?
I
You
can't.
can see on the freeways, they're doing some work on the on-ramps and exits. They're actually creating those carpool lanes to get on the freeway and off the freeway. My understanding, having spoken to a couple of the traffic engineers, is that a lot of the traffic we see are people hopping off of 680, going through Pleasanton, trying to get over to the other side of Livermore. So with this access to the freeway, hopefully we're going to alleviate a lot of the people cutting through Pleasanton and staying on the freeways.
Oh,
So
okay.
that I think will decrease our current traffic, so the impact of these 10,000 people won't be as great. It's not a net 10,000.
All right. All right. Question? Phil?
Oh, yes. Comment and a question. First, to Gina and Jeb, what you guys do with the Weekly for nonprofits in Pleasanton, it needs to be said more and more, because I know for my nonprofit, I don't know that we survive without your assistance and your support. So, now my question is, given these 10,000 new residents, and I don't know if you've been to Livermore on weekends, it's packed with people strolling and restaurants and music and activity. What is the latest that Pleasanton is doing to try to keep our citizens spending their money downtown on weekends?
We knew they have a downtown-specific plan they've been working on. One of the differences between Livermore and Pleasant is that all that business and the widening of the street in Livermore was handled by a special taxing body that was declared illegal. So they've got some huge debts to deal with now, including their planned Performing Arts Center. The city council there has agreed to continue financing the startup funds, but if the court rules that they can't grab those funds that they thought they had, there won't be any Performing Arts Center, that's for sure, and there may be a lot less improvement money. Pleasant didn't have a redevelopment district, so nor did Dublin, so they were home free on that. But Pleasant's, got old buildings, and nobody wants to tear them down. There was a head of the Pleasant Downtown Association, who's now gone, who wanted to bring in Gap Junior, and a couple of other stores. The merchants were not pleased with that. So somewhere along the line, there's got to be some give to get the kinds of businesses downtown that the kids will want to go to, like Abercrombie. They would do a great business downtown, but the local merchants do not want that to come here. So I don't have an answer. We don't have an answer, except that the bars can now stay open until 11 o'clock, which doesn't help the under 21s very much.
All right, any other questions?
Any other questions? Well, Jeff, we know you're here every week, checking out what the guest speaker's talking about, and keeping up on the news. And we appreciate turning the tables on you and giving us some of your knowledge, because let's face it, you are the insider in this city, so we really appreciate it. Let's give a hand to Jeb Bing. So,